Good morning, Digit fam. Adam Dowd here with another week of tech of the awesome variety. Over the weekend, I spent a lot of time playing Beat Saber on the Oculus Quest, and to answer my question asked on Friday, no, I did not screw up. It's so good, people. Anyway, Wednesday is Samsung Note Day, so we'll see what we're going to get from the flagshippiest of flagships. But for now, it is August 5th, 2019, and this is your Digit Daily. OnePlus, we have a problem. Or DxOMark has a problem. Or both, and I'm kind of thinking it might be both. A little background. DxOMark is a website dedicated to camera reviews. It's been around for a while, but the first time it really entered public consciousness was when Google released the original Pixel. Google couldn't wait to brag about its DxOMark score. It had gotten the highest score of any smartphone ever, and ever since, just about every smartphone manufacturer has bragged about its DxOMark score. Now, if you want to learn more about DxOMark scores, MKBHD has a full explainer video because that's how he do, and he breaks it all down for you. I've got that linked in the show notes, mostly because that video was the one that helped me remember that it was the Pixel that bragged about its score in the first place. Thanks, MKBHD. Anyway, it should also be mentioned that the Pixel was when DxOMark first entered my consciousness as well, but at the time, everyone else in my industry seemed to know what the hell Google was talking about, so I ran with it. Smile and nod, folks. Smile and nod. And that all leads us up to OnePlus. The OnePlus 7 Pro also received a high DxOMark score, falling just 1 point shy of the Huawei P30 Pro and the Samsung Galaxy S10 5G, arguably two of the best smartphone cameras on the planet. OnePlus has traditionally had fairly mediocre cameras, and as a OnePlus 6T owner, can confirm. So, coming out of the gate with a super high score is all like, wowie, wow, 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 amazeballs! But then the reviews of the phone started coming out, and while I'm going to use Android Authority's reviews for quotes, reviews from all over were basically the same. The camera is, not surprisingly, fairly mediocre. While the camera has good colors and exposure, it has poor dynamic range, an odd hazy effect in some images, terrible low-light performance without nightscape, which is its low-light mode by the way, and landscape performance is lacking. Now, OnePlus is starting to talk about it. OnePlus's product manager, Zach Zhang, told the Next Web, quote, "When people started getting the device, software which gave us really good grades didn't match their expectations. The photo needs to be natural and good in theory, but visually appealing as well. We didn't do a good job at balancing those two aspects. Even by our own standards, the camera is not where we want it to be. We're trying to improve the image quality to match the best on the market." Which leads us back to DxOMark, and for that we turn to Android Authority's resident smart guy, Rob Triggs, who said, quote, "These problems are compounded by over-promising features that often fall flat, such as lossless zoom, cropping shenanigans, and night shot performance issues. This then appears dishonest and rubs consumers the wrong way. High scores from reputable testers like DxOMark compound this issue of overselling. Take a look at the noise shots on the OnePlus 7 Pro versus the P30 Pro in their own review for some insight into what DxOMark seems to catch, but didn't class as a big issue." So, taking what Rob and MKBHD said, the problem seems to be that camera reviews are still highly subjective, while DxOMark has taken great pains to try and objectively measure camera performance. At the end of the day, something like weighting scores takes that batch of solid objective scores and stirs in a big dose of subjectivity. Well, of course people care more about color reproduction than low-light graininess. Why are we even having this conversation? So really, just treat DxOMark scores like every other review scores with a healthy bit of skepticism. Find a reviewer that consistently takes shots like the ones that you'll consistently take, and go by their recommendation. And for God's sakes, OEM, stop bragging about your subjective scores. So with that, it's time to head into the roundup! Samsung leaked the fact that its smartphone will charge fast like every other smartphone on the planet for the past 2 years. Shocking. Huawei could reveal its own Android replacement operating system this week. You may recall how the world freaked out when Google pulled support from Huawei due to the Entity List ban a couple of months back. Well, to that Huawei says, fool me twice, shame on me. Huawei wants to be sure that its place in the world of mobile is as secure as it can be, which includes a backup plan for its operating system, which is a wise move on several levels. I'm frankly interested in seeing it myself because it's a third competitor in the mobile world that could be intriguing. On the same token, though, good luck, Huawei. Even Samsung hasn't been able to make Tizen stick. A key market analyst predicts that Apple will absorb any additional costs that President Trump's recent tariffs impose on U.S. shipments of the iPhone. At the same time, Apple will move as much manufacturing as possible outside of China to meet U.S. demand. Remember, China can make every other phone on the planet for Apple with no tariffs applied. It's only those shipping to the U.S. that become a problem, and if most of those phones can come from somewhere else, then good for Apple. And if not, Apple only gets to make 300% profit margin as opposed to 310% or whatever. Joe Hindi at Android Authority takes a look at the diversity of streaming services and how it could be making piracy sexy again. There's a lot to explain here. Piracy in the story talks about downloading free copies of movies from BitTorrents and places like the Pirate Bay, and it's something that neither this podcast nor this podcast host endorses. Don't do it. When Netflix started growing, it triggered a decline in piracy as well. Why go to the trouble of downloading a movie when you can just kick in $10 a month and get a whole buttload of movies? But now, with so many streaming services hiding content behind their various paywalls, 2018 saw a rise in piracy again, and it's no surprise. As a cord cutter, I'm getting increasingly irritated at the number of services that I need to subscribe to get the content I want. I'm not saying I'm going to turn to piracy, but I kinda get why you might. Again, don't do it, just don't. But I kinda get it. But don't. This next story is a follow-up to the French inventor Frank Zapata, who tried to cross the English Channel a couple of weeks ago. At the time, my headline read that he successfully crossed half the English Channel. This time, he successfully crossed the whole English Channel, and it's pretty impressive. As to whether or not this will lead to Iron Men flying around all over the place, I doubt it, but it's a neat step forward, even if flying the flyboard involves strapping a tank of kerosene to your back, and never mind. No thank you. And finally, Charlie Brooker, the creator of the British TV series Black Mirror, which, if you haven't seen it, is all kinds of messed up and awesome, got a taste of his own universe the other day when his son called him Alexa. Suddenly it occurred to him how much his kids were using technology, and ironically, it frightened him a bit. I call it sweet revenge for that pig episode, but you know, to each his own. So that's going to do it for today's Digit Daily. If you'd like to learn more about any of these stories, check out the links in the show notes and subscribe to our daily newsletter on Digit.com. And if you like what you heard, subscribe, leave a review, and don't forget to tell your friends about DigitDailyPod.com. Once again, I'm Adam Dowd, Dead Technology on Twitter, and we'll talk again tomorrow.